How's it going, everybody? This is Jonathan Diaz, TK16890, with my guest today, Jeff Tascio, TX51391. And we're going to talk a little bit about Star Wars and how you got into the 501st and all that stuff. How are you, Jeff?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Okay, I'm as good as I can be.
Yeah, considering everything going on. Yep.
But now that everything's, I guess, kind of settling down, we can hopefully soon start trooping a lot more and all that stuff.
Things are getting a little bit better. I saw we got some new troops coming up, so that's exciting.
Yeah, that was exciting to see troops on the board at all
Yeah,
for last
I'm
year.
like I'm ready to go for next week. I think I got one in Oyster Bay next week.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, like these always start. How'd you get into Star Wars, Jeff? What's your Star Wars story?
So I think like most people, I'm obviously not old enough to have experienced the originals in theaters, but I think my first experience was the special editions in theaters in the mid 90s. I'm about 29 years old, so I was very obviously very young when special editions came out. I had been shown the movies before on like VHS and stuff like that, but the first time I can remember sitting from beginning to end was watching the special edition of The Empire Strikes Back in theaters when I was a kid. And then I obviously grew up in the prequels era. I had started, not that I was out of it by the time Clone Wars the show came around, but I wasn't in it as much during the Clone Wars show, which from a collecting standpoint I seriously regret at the moment. But I started to get back into it towards the end of the Clone Wars, and then when the sequel trilogy started back up and things like that.
Yeah, man, we're about the same age, so like same story. It was like special editions. My grandma
Yeah.
had them on VHS, so like she showed me those when I was a kid. Then, of course, the prequels came out
Yep.
and all that stuff. And then, of course, I was collecting like crazy from Revenge of the Sith on. I was collecting pretty hard.
I had a huge amount of like prequel movie stuff, and I obviously love clones, and I don't know why I fell out of it during a series where it was solely focused on clones. Some of the prices for some of them clone figures now are astronomical, and I
Yeah, dude.
really wish.
Yeah, some of the because I was really big in collecting the Hasbro 3-inch
Yeah,
figure.
yeah,
I used to love the packaging for Revenge of the Sith with the Darth Vader backboard with
yes,
fire.
yes, those are
Yeah,
awesome.
but yeah, some of those clones are worth some money now. Those are probably the only ones that are really hold any value are the clones.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Cool, man. So, all right, so that's how you got into Star Wars. How'd you find out about the 501st? What was your first hearing about them? How'd you get into that whole thing?
So I think my first experience with the 501st was the Battlefront game and like the movie, because in the Anakin's Legion is the 501st, and I guess from that I spent an inordinate amount of time on Wikipedia, and I think through reading a Wikipedia article I found out that it was named after the real life Legion. I had never actually. I think the only time I had ever encountered the 501st in person was Toys R Us used to do those like Force Fridays when they
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
were coming out, and they were at the Toys R Us in White Plains during one of them. And there's a bunch of pictures with me with, I'm pretty sure there's pictures of me with guys that I currently troop with, but I obviously can't recognize anybody in their armor. But yeah, it's funny looking back, like, wow, I have 8 of these now.
Right? It's crazy to think, right? And
Yeah.
that's all the money we probably spend on them as well.
Oh, my girlfriend's not happy about it. Yeah.
Oh, dude, well,
Yeah.
it starts to get to the point where you just things just show up in the house, and you're like, oh yeah, I had that.
And you tell them it was ordered for half the price that it actually was.
Or my favorite thing is to say, oh, I pre-ordered that a long time ago. That's
Oh, and it's true. I
last
be pre-ordering stuff like 2 years out. Like, I collect the Hot Toys and stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, I completely forgot I pre-ordered that, and like this
yeah, yeah.
400 figure shows up at my doorstep. Yeah, it's fun.
I actually have a friend. He's not in the 501st, but he's a big like statue and Hot Toys collector. And his wife made him make a list whenever he orders something on pre-order, so she can keep track of all the stuff he's bringing back.
That is funny. That's hilarious. She saw my pre-order list on sideshow.com, and it was like her jaw was on the floor. She's like, "What's wrong with you?" So, yeah.
That's how it happens, man.
Yep.
So that's how you found out about them. What made you say, "Hey, I want to dress up like a plastic spaceman"?
So it's kind of funny. It was like a July day, and I'm a teacher, so I was off, and I kind of just woke up and I was like, I'm gonna join the 501st. And I was laying in bed and I started ordering different armor pieces and had not a clue what I was doing. So half the pieces that I ordered had to go back. They weren't useful for what I was doing. I went through I ordered one TIE pilot helmet because my first costume was an Inferno Squad. I ordered one OT TIE pilot helmet, which doesn't work because the Inferno is a Rogue One TIE pilot helmet, which at the time I was like, what's the difference? Now I can like look at the movies and be like, ooh, that's that. It's like it's very strange to be able to just point at stuff and be like, ooh, I know what that is. But yeah, it was literally just me laying in bed like, yep, I'm gonna do this. And then by November, I had worked on it most of the summer, and by like that November, I had been approved.
So you said you had to send a lot of stuff back. When was it that you realized maybe I should start going on, or how'd you find out about the forums? Like when did you say maybe I should find people like-minded to get some help so I don't keep money?
I think I joined our forum, the ECG forum, in like August that year. I think I joined the TX forum around the same time. I think the only thing that I had been going off of was I had found the CRL. And I had been kind of going off that, and it was kind of overwhelming at the beginning. It was like, where the hell do I get all these pieces? Like, especially I had no idea that the Inferno CRL had like just come out of like maybe a month or two before. So like there weren't a lot of makers for parts and stuff like that. So I was kind of like, oh, I kind of found everything on my own and pieced it together. And then all of a sudden people are like, yeah, I bought a kit and put it all together. I was like, you bought a kit? Like you're able to buy all this at once? I had found like one maker that was making, because part of it's a Scout Trooper belt. I had found one maker that was making a black version of the Scout Trooper belt. I was like, I had to like scour the internet for these individual parts, and kind of, you know, put them together and have things sewn and glue things together and all that stuff. And yeah, it all just kind of came together piecemeal.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. It's crazy when you're making your first costume. It's like your rite of passage because you don't have access to all these things. Even when you join the forums, you get minimum access and you're talking to people. But then once you become a member, it becomes so easy because you can just everybody makes stuff in the whole 501st. So yeah, you'll find everything so easy.
The resources are invaluable. I find a lot of the build groups and stuff on Facebook, especially for like specific costumes, are completely invaluable. Like you just post on there, you ask, does this work? Does that work? And you get GMLs from all over the country. You get, you know, detachment leadership. They all comment on it and stuff like that. So that's really useful as well.
Me, I'm not crafty, as I've said in many of these videos. I just bothered the heck out of my GML. And I think at the time there was like 2 GMLs, and it was Lou. If you know Lou, I don't know if you know Lou. He was an older member, and this guy named John, who's also a member, who's not really active right now.
Okay.
And man, I bothered Lou so much that he pawned me off on John Hopper, and John Hopper built my whole TK and
really
going and all that. Yeah. He was very nice to that. You know, I paid him, but it was very nice to help me out and, you know, go to his house. And the good thing about having the GML build your costume is that you get approved real quick.
Yeah, really. I was gonna say, like, there's really, what do they have to really look at? They know what they built. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, man. So were you always building stuff, or did you really get a hankering for it after the 501st? You're an art teacher. Yeah.
Yeah, so this kind of stuff is in my wheelhouse. The funny thing is, the next year after I got approved, I had gotten the job as the art teacher, and one of the first things I ordered was like, I want a 3D printer. So a lot of the stuff that I now do is 3D printed. So I had always built stuff, like built models and things like that, nothing on this scale. But now that I know what I'm doing to an extent, or at least if I don't know what I'm doing, I know where to get the resources to figure out what I'm doing. I build a lot of stuff now. Like I order helmets for things that I'm not even going to build. Like I just came across a heavy Mandalorian helmet that I was like, ooh, I bought it, and I have no idea what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to paint it, and it's going to sit on my shelf. But yeah, I kind of got into the whole making thing kind of right after I started with the 501st.
Well, man, and you are at how many costumes at the moment?
At the moment, I have 8. I have an Inferno Squad Delmico, a Shadow Trooper, 4 Clone Troopers, a Phase 1, a Phase 2, an Airborne Clone Trooper, and a Commander Oppo. And I have both the pre-Beskar Din Djarin and the Season 1 Beskar Din Djarin.
And we'll get to Din Djarin because I want to talk about that. But most 501st people, when they start, what do? They get a TK.
Yes.
What made you not want to go the TK route?
Honestly, don't know. I think I looked at I had played the Battlefront game. I grew up playing the original Battlefront. I liked Battlefront
Yeah.
2. I was just like, these look cool. I like the red stripe on the Inferno squad. And that was really it. I was like, oh, I like this. It kind of once we had that Jordan trip last year, and they had requested OT characters, I was like, wow, I really could have used like a standard white TK for this. And I was kind of annoyed at myself. But and I had grown up in like the prequel era, so I kind of leaned more towards clones anyway. So at the moment, I still don't have like a regular TK. The closest thing I have is a Shadow Trooper.
Yeah.
Um,
At this point, if you got a regular TK, you can probably put that together in a week or so.
yeah, I'm helping somebody else build their own TK. The
So you'll be
Garrison.
ready.
So I figured it's the same thing. Mine just happens to be black ABS instead of white ABS. So I figure I can build it. But yeah, some of this stuff I can put together relatively quickly now.
It was awesome, man. And you're like one of the first people to blast out doing the Mandalorian Din Djarin, both versions.
So um that I kind of I swore to God I was like I'm not making any more costumes after the clone because I started the clone at the beginning of lockdown. I had gotten 4 approvals out of it, and I've still actually gotten another approval waiting. I have the 332nd helmet, and as soon as that like Hot Toys is released, they'll make a CRL for it.
Mhm.
I was like, I'm not doing this again. It took me, and it didn't take me a long time, but over time, you tweak things. It took a few months. I got approved within a month of starting the project, but over time, I tweaked stuff, and I was tired. And I swore to God I wasn't going to build this costume. And then I came across like a 3D print. It was like a B grade 3D print that somebody was selling of the helmet. And I bought the helmet and I put that together. And I was like, that's the only part I'm building. I'm not building the whole thing. And then I saw the trailer for season 2, and I was like, okay, I'm building this now. Um, so I have access to a 3D printer. I have access to a couple of different tools and kind of like a workshop area to work on it. So I printed up all the armor. I got a flight suit and that I had to modify just a little bit from a website called Cosplay Sky, and I got everything together, figured out how to best paint. The hardest part was painting the helmet, because that's obviously the part that everybody stares at.
Of course.
And from my experience painting anything in metallics, metallics are very fragile as a paint, and B, they can smudge or get fingerprints or whatever, and it's hard to clear coat them. It's almost impossible to clear coat them. So I had to get a special metallic paint they call it Spastics. It is like a reflective chrome paint. Then I had to also use automotive grade clear coat over it, the 2K clear coat, the 2-part stuff, which is super, super toxic. So that was fun. That was a fun experience. My eyes burned. It wasn't
Hopefully, you have like an outdoor space or a garage where you're doing this.
I do have a workshop area where I have like fans and like exhaust and stuff that I can paint in. But yeah, like I would be painting back there, and like people would walk by and like cough and stuff, be like, "My bad, sorry, I should have put a sign on the door of what I'm doing back here." Yeah.
So with the 3D printing, it's crazy. Let's see. I think I've been in the field for almost 9 years. When I started, 3D printers were like just coming out, or maybe like a year later, where they were just really getting popular, like
Yep.
home use. So nobody was doing that, but it's crazy now. The resources, like you can bang out blasters and so many parts, like so fast. So
I
just
banged out the Din Djarin blaster in less than a day. I just like
crazy.
hit print. There was 3 parts. By the end of the day, I had all 3 parts, glued them together, filled it, painted it, all that stuff. I had it done in a day.
And then
It's amazing.
for those who don't know, when you 3D print it, what's the process? You got to sand it down, obviously.
Yeah, that's the not so fun part. That probably takes the most time out of any of the work with the 3D print. Depending on the quality of the print, there might be more or less lines, depending on how it comes out and depending on the material as well. But filling in 3D prints is a time consuming process. There's a lot of sanding involved. So if you're going to build a 3D printed kit, you're going to sand it till you want to cry, and then you're going to have to sand some more after
that. And then on top of that, you got to paint it the metallic, which was probably another pain in the butt.
Yep.
And yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, man.
Yep.
That's the next costume I want to do. As we know, as I spoke to you yesterday, just sourcing out parts for that thing is crazy. I have the helmet already, but I'm just trying to.
Where'd you get your helmet? What made your helmet?
Man, why am I forgetting? Give me a second. Why is my brain going blank? Give me a sec.
The funny thing is, I found that like cheap 3D print, and I painted it up, and I never ended up actually using it. I ended up buying like a resin casted helmet. It was a Brandford Studios helmet casting, gorgeous. It's based on the Great Ape Studio files, which is like I guess the 3D print files that everybody uses. They're considered like the most accurate.
Here you go. If anybody wants to know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I bought the helmet and I was like, I'm just gonna get the helmet and just so I can have it on display.
Everybody sells them stuff.
And then I had the helmet and I was like, I'm itching to do a costume, which I haven't done a costume in a while. So I was like,
what other costumes do you have? I know you have the TK.
TK, TIE Pilot.
Okay.
Out of that, I also did a gunner,
Okay.
Reserve, crew. That costume was great because you get like 4 approves out of it. And then I kind of just took a pause on the costume thing because it just I live in now I live in a pretty spacious apartment, but I live in an apartment. I don't even have any of my costumes here, so
okay.
Space, and then I have helmets all over the place, and
yeah, I completely understand. I got the same thing. Just out of view of this camera, there's a whole bunch of helmets around here. So my clone is on a mannequin I live in a studio. My clone is on a mannequin. My girlfriend hates me for it. It's like having a roommate. It's like having.
So when I moved in with my fiance, she was like, listen, this got to be limited. Like, if you don't see over here, but I have a glass case here, that's Lego stuff up there, Baby Yoda, but that's about it. Everything else, my old room in my mother's house is my storage.
Is it?
I have all my costumes. I have all my toys, everything that's all in there, just cataloged away.
I totally get that. The good thing is I had owned my apartment before I met my girlfriend, so she couldn't really say anything to me. But now that it's been like 4 years, she's like, no, you gotta like scale it back. I'm like,
that's what happens. It's getting to the point now where I really do need to make a new TK though. My TK.
Are you thinking of doing like a Rogue One TK or the original?
Yeah, I'm just gonna do another Star Wars New Hope TK like I have. It's just mine's just starting to, after 8 years, it's done its job.
Yeah. I totally.
And I was always the guy they made fun of at Troops because I wrapped all my pieces in bubble wrap.
Did you really?
For years, because I've spent so much money on it to keep it as.
Yeah, I completely get it.
I was the guy with the wipes and this and that. And,
I totally get that.
But yeah, it finally started to crack. I gained a little weight during Corona, so.
Yep. That is the struggle right there. I totally get that. My favorite word in the English language is weathering, because I get to hide all the screw ups, all the mistakes, all the cracks, whatever. It all gets to be hidden with weathering. That's my favorite word when it comes to this stuff.
I was thinking with my old TK, maybe I should just turn it into a sand trooper, and then I can.
Yeah, there you go. That's the dream right there.
But but I just haven't had the itch for a while, and then last year I wanted to do something, but it wasn't until season 2 Mandalorian, just like you are, I was like, man, I gotta do this costume.
Yep. I was literally sitting there watching that trailer, like, yep, I'm gonna make it. And then everybody that I swore to God I wasn't gonna make it, they're like, you're gonna make it. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I was like, yeah, I'm doing it.
It's the curse, man. It's the 501st curse. Now you're big into collecting, as I see.
Yes, I am.
Are you doing any 501st collecting? Patches, pins?
The only stuff. Well, the nice thing was my first troop was an Islanders game in a couple years ago. People threw patches at me. They threw patches at me. They threw coins at me. They threw stickers at me. It was great. It was awesome. I'm currently at the moment wearing a clone detachment hoodie. Like, I like the apparel and stuff. I have the same shirt you're wearing. I got that run recently. What's cool is I have a Spec Ops goalie jersey. I play hockey, so they did like a hockey jersey. So yeah, I have a Spec Ops goalie jersey. I like that sort of stuff. I haven't gotten too much into the coins, but the patch, I have a couple of the Costume Excellence Award patches. I've got a couple of ECG patches. I got a couple of 501st patches, and a couple of people have given me like their personal patches as well. So I have a pretty decent amount there, and I have cards too. I have a bunch of cards.
Yeah, that's a good thing about always on your first couple of troops, you get thrown a bunch of swag from everybody, which is always fun. And I got a drawer of 501st shirts from over the years that it's literally a full drawer that's just 501st t-shirts. I don't even think I
That's
have
all.
regular Star Wars t-shirts anymore.
It's all just 501st. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. I have way too many 501st shirts. And they did man, I don't know. I don't think it's here. We did ECG hockey jerseys
Oh, did you?
years back. Yeah, we
Oh,
did. And we did baseball jerseys as well.
that's cool too. I would definitely rock those. That's
But that was
awesome.
cool for when you did like the Yankee games and stuff like that, or you have to get
Yeah.
ECG.
I did the Mets game a couple years ago. That was a cool experience.
Oh, did you ever get to do a the Yankees?
I haven't done the Yankees yet. I was signed up to do it last year when we were doing it, I guess in August, and then
Yeah,
obviously it happened. Yeah.
yeah, that's one of the crazier troops we do. Uh,
That's awesome.
yeah, yeah. And for the people listening, they treat us very good, the New York Yankees.
I
Yeah,
did the Knicks game. That was the last troop I did before everything kind of went crazy.
yeah, I
It was
remember.
like,
That's where I first met you. Was at the Knicks game.
yes,
Mhm.
that was. I'm a huge basketball fan. I'm a huge Knicks fan. Thank God this season. This is the first season in 20 years that I've had hope that they're
Yeah,
gonna
I
be
know
good.
they're doing good this year.
I'm watching them now, and I'm like actually excited like to turn the games on at this point. I'm not like miserable turning on MSG, but that was a great experience. I thought they treated us really well. I got to go on the court and do like the t-shirt toss. That was awesome.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
like, yeah, throw it to you can throw it to like the lower bowls. I was like, nah, man, I'm gonna wing this as far as I could. I threw it all the way up to the upper deck. I like got it way up there. That
No,
was a really cool
that's
experience.
one of the coolest things with the 501st. You get to experience some things you
Yes.
never. I mean, I've been in City Field, Yankee Stadium,
Yes.
Madison Square Garden. Yeah, it's crazy that just the places you get to go and go out onto the fields and the stadiums.
Yes.
It's
City Field standing on the field, that was crazy. Just looking up and there's like, the 40,000 people yelling. That was crazy.
yeah, I grew up a big Yankees fan, so when we got to do,
Mhm.
I've done the Mets a couple of times, but when they finally let us do the, because for years Yankees never did a Star Wars thing, it was
Yeah.
always the Mets. So when they finally had us do it, I was like, oh wow, this is really cool.
That's an awesome experience. Yeah.
Yeah,
Especially as
yeah,
a fan.
yeah. And then when we're done, they give us a box upstairs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They gave us seating and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no. At a Yankee Stadium, they give you a VIP. They give us two VIP
Oh,
boxes
wait. Really?
full of
That's
catering and stuff like that.
crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's a
That's
pretty crazy
awesome.
experience when you get to do the Yankees.
I'm looking forward to that one. I'm a huge
Yeah,
baseball fan. I'm a San Francisco Giants fan, but I love baseball in general. So
no, it's
I'm excited for
crazy.
that.
Yeah, I remember when we first time we did it, and we were all up there, and they have somebody in there cooking hot dogs, and it's fully
Yes, I've been
catered.
to one at City Field. They have like all sorts of food, anything you want, any
I was
drink
like,
you
this is
want. Like,
crazy. This is like bigger than most New York apartments. Is what
yeah, really, yeah, yeah. That is 100% a fact.
so now that I bring that up, what is the craziest thing you've gotten to do that you would have
Um,
thought you've got to do being in the 501st?
I would say being on the floor during halftime at the Knicks game was the craziest thing. A, as a fan, because I'm again a huge Knicks fan. B, it is kind of a surreal experience to have 18,000 people all just kind of like looking at you. And kind of especially because they had a halftime show going on. People were excited there to see us. I fun kind of story that if somebody at MSG sees this, they'll probably kill me. But my Inferno Squad boots are like World War II metal motorcycle riding boots. They have metal on the bottom, and my heel accidentally scuffed the floor at
Oh,
MSG. So yeah, so whoever has to polish that, that's my fault. That's my bad. But I thought that was really cool. And we were there, and like Ben Stiller walked by us and was like, "Hey, Star Wars people." I was like, "What?" So that was a really cool experience. Yeah, that was probably the craziest thing I've ever got to do there.
yeah, man. I think I mean, luckily over the years I've been blessed with doing so many, and like you said, having a TK costume helps
Yes.
out doing a lot of crazy things. But one of the craziest things that comes up every year, have you ever seen the Spike Star Wars TV commercial?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
The one they play for Christmas and stuff like that.
Yes.
It's great whenever anybody posts that, and I can say I was one of the stormtroopers in that
Like,
video.
yeah, that's big. Yeah, that's awesome.
So it was me,
Yeah.
Chris, Ruby. He was Chewbacca at the Knicks, and yeah, a bunch of other people. And That was a crazy experience. That was like the first big experience I had. So that was always like a really
Yeah.
memorable one. And that comes up every year, and it's great when people post that.
They still play the same commercial every year, right?
Every year.
Yeah.
Or people post it, just Star Wars fans on like YouTube. They post it during Christmas time all the time, which is
That's
funny.
hilarious.
But
That's
but
awesome.
but little do people know is we were standing outside in the freezing cold in spandex and plastic and freezing for like 8 hours.
And it's miserable, and
Oh, it was
yeah, I
completely
totally
miserable.
get Yeah. Also, you actually shot it during like winter time?
We shot it in the dead of winter in Brooklyn, uh, and they would have us stand there, and I think they thought we were really stormtroopers because we had to tell them at a point, "Listen, can you get us a tent or like some hot chocolate?" Because
Yeah, like something like a
I
blanket.
and then on top of that, I was sweating because they had a choreographer come and teach us all those random dances,
Yeah, of course.
and then this was pre. Uh, this was like the time where there was no Disney, so they
Mhm.
let us do stuff like that. Now Disney would never let
Yeah,
a commercial like that happen.
Disney's got that lockdown, right?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, funny story. We did the commercial for ESPN. Not what was it last? No, 2 years ago.
Mhm.
Uh, and I was there, and I was had walking around with one of the people from Disney, and I showed them that commercial, and they couldn't believe that they let us do that. I was like, no, this was before Disney.
Funny.
They were like, this is crazy.
Yeah. So that must have been what, pre-2012, I guess? That's when Disney bought everything,
Yeah,
right?
man. Yeah, yeah, I can't believe it's crazy to think that I've been doing this for that long at this point.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I
And you've gotten
still
to wear like screen use stuff, right?
what?
Have you
Yeah,
gotten to wear
actually
like
at that ESPN commercial, I was lucky enough that was the second time I got to wear a screen used that was the Sith Trooper, the red Sith Trooper that they
that's yeah, that's crazy.
and it was only because at the time they called me because I think it was going to be me or Chris Feehan. It's usually me or Chris Feehan for those things because it's really small, skinny people they want
I
for
was gonna
that.
say there's a height and weight requirement for that, right?
So yeah, so they just needed someone who's going to fit in the costume, and luckily I was able to do it for the View, and
That's
then
awesome.
I guess they liked me then, and they asked if I can come do this ESPN commercial, which was really cool.
That has got to be a wild experience to be like, ooh, this was in a movie.
Yeah, it was crazy. And they brought, so there was a lady from Lucasfilm from the archival department.
Mhm.
She's carrying around that case with her like it's gold. They
Like it's
brought,
handcuffed to her.
they brought a costume person. They brought a prop master.
Mhm.
He's worked on, and I was talking to him, he's worked on Spider-Man, putting on Tom. He puts on people's costumes. He's working with Tom Holland and all those
That's
people.
wild.
I couldn't even touch it myself. Like somebody had to put it on me.
Really?
So they fully dressed me. They walked. It was funny because Chris Behan was there, and some people from Jersey were
Mhm.
from no, they flew somebody out from, I forget what Garrison they flew them out from.
Oh wow.
I, they kind of left them on their own and stuff, and I felt like spoiled because I had people walking around with like wipies wiping me down and asking me if I was okay, and like just guarding
Yeah.
the costume with their life.
That's awesome. Is there anything like the way we strap our costumes? Was it similar to like the way we strap, full armor kits?
Yeah, it's crazy. Honestly, our strapping is probably 100 times better than their
Really?
strapping. It's a lot of Velcro, and I think they honestly adopted a lot of stuff from the 501st when I was talking to them. So they started doing a lot more snaps and stuff because of 501st.
Really? That's
One
crazy.
one of the craziest things is the midsection piece. It was rubber. It was a silicone that looks
That's what I
plastic.
heard.
So
Yeah.
crazy. So because the one I wore was one of the ones that people were running around fighting in and
Yeah.
stuff.
Stunt costume. Yeah.
So it's completely rubber, but it honestly, I wish we can do that in the 501st. It felt amazing.
Yeah, you can actually flex at your
Yeah,
midsection.
yeah,
Like,
you can flex your
oh,
midsection. Yeah,
yeah. That's awesome. And obviously it's painted to look gloss red, which is if anybody's ever worked with silicone versus plastic, it's almost impossible to color match those two materials.
yeah. I don't know how they're doing that, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
crazy.
amazing.
Yeah, we couldn't take pictures of it or anything.
I kind of figured as much. I'm sure that was lockdown
I
tight as
have
well.
like couple pictures on my phone that she took of me in the costume and swore me to never post anywhere for
Yeah,
me. So,
yeah, that makes sense. I was kind of following the development of that. We got the Sith CRL a couple days ago, the Sith Trooper CRL. I was kind of
yeah, I
following.
saw.
They were all arguing about the neck part. I guess it is that same. Is it that same silicone sort of like stretchy part around the neck, like the
Yeah,
purest?
yeah. So it's
All
almost
arguing
like
about that.
it's almost like a pauldron that goes over your head that barely fits over your head. That's a silicone piece,
Mhm.
and then the chest plate goes over it.
It's over. Yeah, they couldn't figure out how that went on. They were saying, "Oh, like, oh, this is plastic. This has to be plastic." Blah blah blah. They couldn't figure it out, and eventually, I think somebody popped in. They're like, "No, this is a rubber material. This is
Yeah,
silicone," and they color matched it to paint it red like that. Which, again, as an art teacher, I'm like, "Holy hell, you got to color match silicone? That's wild."
yeah. I don't know how
Oh,
they did that, but
yeah, crazy
yeah,
man.
we really wanted to take pictures like for reference
Oh, I would
photos,
too.
but they would not let us.
Well, to be fair, you were on the View, so I'm sure there's a record of it.
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah,
That's awesome.
but yeah, luckily, and I know Chris Feehan's got to do some cool stuff that I don't even think I can say.
He told me to. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I wasn't sure if I was going to bring that up, but yeah, he told me about that at our last trip. But that was where he told me about that, and I was like, "Ooh, that's wild." And he
Yeah,
told me
yeah,
that about it was crazy and all that stuff.
yeah. I was
Um,
actually very happy for him because I know he was like, he was happy for me, but I know he wanted to do the Sith Trooper too. So when he got to do the
yeah,
other thing, I was like, okay, cool.
I'm sure he was over the moon. I would have fainted when they opened that case. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, dude, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's sick. And he said the same thing. Like they sent out like a prop person. They had like a binder of instructions on how to put the thing on,
Yeah, yeah,
and
and they
like,
also when she pulls it out the box, she has to check everything off, check it
yeah.
back when it goes in. It's
I mean,
great.
it's got to be a cool job, but that sounds stressful for her.
I
Like, ooh,
got
you
to
lost the piece.
I got to keep the balaclava because they
Oh,
bring it
really?
in every time. So I was like, "Can I keep this?"
That's awesome. That is
So
such a
I
sick
took that.
experience. That's really cool. But being in the 501st gives us access to those types of opportunities. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, it's crazy. Well, I mean, I think more or less that was one of the good things that came with the buyout of Disney. There was a lot more
Yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah.
But then on the other spectrum, why we got into this, have you done a hospital troop yet?
I have Westchester Medical Center, which one of the hospitals in the Westchester area, had a almost like a fair for they specialize in like cancer stuff, so they had like a fair. That was really cool. I like that. I haven't been in a hospital proper, but
Oh,
that was on the hospital grounds. I've been looking forward to it. I actually reached out to White Plains Hospital, but they didn't have a pediatric ward, or they don't have a pediatric ward. They're building one now, and B, it was right before everything kind of started happening. So of course now we're not allowed to go to a hospital trip.
it was hard with certain hospitals, especially with you know terminally ill and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Just get us
yeah,
in there beforehand. So now it's like
almost
impossible.
impossible. Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, but I hope you get to experience that. That's like the
I
best.
would like even seeing the kids during like the fair that they had, because they had brought the patients out for that. It was like a whole like morning thing. That was a cool experience. Their faces like immediately light up. And it was weird because all the kids were like, "Oh, Battlefront, Battlefront." I was like, "Wow, you recognize me?" Like that's weird.
That's pretty
Because
cool.
everybody recognizes Bader, everybody recognizes the TKs and stuff. It was like, "Ooh, Battlefront." I was like, "Wow, all right, cool."
That's good. I've seen scout troopers get called Power Rangers, and
Oh yeah, anybody that's wearing any sort of black armor is immediately Darth Vader.
yeah,
Yep.
Tie Pilot.
I
Yeah,
have no doubt I'm going to get called Boba Fett whenever I wear my Mandalorian to
for
a
sure.
troop. Boba Fett, I'm fine with it. It's fine.
Talking about
Yeah.
talking about that, are you thinking about doing the new Boba Fett helmet?
So I really think that re-armored look is cool. That like when he repaints the armor to be like that solid green, I think that's a really cool look. And it looks a lot more comfortable because it's a lot. You can tell that's like a lot more fabric underneath.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I can actually sit in the Din Djarin armor, which is a godsend for anybody that wears like a set of armor.
Oh yeah.
I can sit relatively comfortably in it. And I wore it to school on Halloween and taught an entire day as, Din Djarin.
That's awesome.
Um, yeah, so I wore it for like 8 straight hours or whatever. So yeah, I would like to. Like I said, I kind of just randomly buy helmets and stuff. So if I do end up coming across a Boba Fett cast, I'll probably impulsively buy it and then have to explain that to my girlfriend again.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy when you start, you're all gung ho about wearing the full armor, and you're like, no, this is
Yes.
great. And then a couple years down the line, you're like, I need to find something comfortable. As soon as I got my TIE pilot costume, I only wear the TK when needed.
Yep, I totally get that. I built my clone. I wore it to one troop, and then like a month later, I started building the Mandalorian. I was like, ooh, I don't know if that clone's ever coming out again. Like it looks cool, it's great, but I don't know, man. This is comfortable.
Yeah, sitting. I have pockets. It's a
Yes,
great thing.
the pockets are like so underrated. Like, ooh, I can keep my phone on me. Crazy.
Yeah, and you keep your trading cards in your pocket, like
Exactly. Yep. I got all sorts of pouches on the Mandalorian belt, and they fit cards perfectly, which is awesome. Because I just got a bunch of cards in. Laura, the girl that does our cards, is phenomenal at it.
Yeah.
So she
Yeah,
did a great job.
I haven't had a chance to get my new cards yet, but yeah, I definitely got
Yeah, she does a really nice job with them with the new designs this year. And of course, I've got like 6 this. I'm pretty sure her and the GML team want to strangle me at this point because I'm like, sorry guys, I have another costume.
Yeah, no, don't worry. I'm pretty sure if they're gonna strangle anybody, it's gonna be Chris. Chris probably has the most cards of anybody.
That is true. Chris does have a lot of cards. Yep.
Yeah,
But
he
that's
probably
all.
has boxes of cards for days.
Yeah. Yep. That is, and it's cool though. I mean, his card with the when he's on the speeder bike, that's really cool. That's a great shot. All mine, I'm just kind of standing there like a dope, because they're all taken from my like approval pictures where I'm literally just standing there. I have like no cool cards. They're just me standing there.
So you've been with the 501st. Did you want to do Rebel Legion with the 501st, or did you find about Rebel Legion after 501st, or you're just like,
Yeah,
hey, let
I
me.
had found out afterwards. I had found out that actually somebody reached out to. So I knew Rebel Legion existed. I didn't really know the scope of what they did. I mean, I kind of understood the scope of what they did. That they did like the good guy side. If we're bad guys doing good, they're the good guys. But somebody had reached out to me when I was asking for some help on the clone. He's like, clones are dual approval. I was like, wait, what? He's like, yeah, they they cross over through both groups. So I was like, oh, okay. I'm kind of on a whim. I submitted the pictures to Rebel Legion, and I swear, like within like 15 minutes, they're like, oh, you're approved. I was like, oh, all right, cool. So, yeah, every time I got a clone approved with the 501st, I also did the same thing and got it approved with the Rebel Legion.
Yeah,
I'm actually waiting on the Beskar approval now for the Rebel Legion.
that's awesome. Well, maybe if I ever do at some point finish doing a Din Djarin or something like that, I will do Rebel Legion as well. I've just always had the pure bad guy costumes.
I totally get. Are you doing the Beskar Din Djarin, or are you doing the pre-Beskar?
I would love to do Beskar.
Okay. So we actually only do 501st is only picking up the season 1 Beskar, which I didn't realize. I had started making season 2. Yeah, there's like my Rebel Legion approval is for the season 2 Beskar. My 501st approval is for the season 1 Beskar. So like I printed both. The thigh plate is a little bit different. The knee rockets, which I didn't know were knee rockets. Like when Boba Fett steps up and the rockets shoot out of his knee armor, I was like, oh, I didn't know those were rockets.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah. But that part of it is not a part of the season 1 costume, but it's on the season 2, and there's a couple of little differences, but they do, if you make the parts, you can get 1 or 2 approvals out of the Beskar costume.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, gonna have to do all my research, man. It's definitely been a minute since I've traveled down the costume road.
By all means, whatever you need. If you need any advice on it, please reach out. Joe Mantello, same thing. He's doing it as well. He's been reaching out to me, and I've been helping him out. So
down the line, do you see yourself doing GML?
I haven't thought about that. I guess it would be cool. I haven't thought about any sort of position in the 501st. I'm just like, ooh, I like building things and making kids happy. Like that's cool.
Yeah, man, it's good. Yeah, you're the type of person that they look for later on down the road when people are retired from their GML positions.
Yeah, I totally get that. And the attention to detail that they go through, what they do is it almost seems like a thankless job with them. Like you kind of have to pick apart all the little details and stuff. But But like I said before, when I watch the movies now, I start to pick out like little stuff. Like I'll be watching The Mandalorian and be like, "Ooh, his thigh plate or his thigh armor looks weird, or something's off about it, or whatever." Like you can see the strapping. It's weird to be able to sit there and watch the movies or shows and kind of like be in that mindset. Like I know what these costumes, how these costumes are built. I can see kind of the stuff that people wouldn't normally pick out of them. It's kind of a weird mindset to be in when I'm watching the movies.
No, it's crazy. Even yeah, because when I started, just like you, I was like, "What's the difference between an Empire Strikes Back TK and a Return of the
Hmm.
Jedi TK?" I didn't know there was a difference, but
Yep.
now everywhere I go, I go to. We went to Disney pre Galaxy's Edge,
Mhm.
and we were in Hollywood Studios, and I'm just picking apart all their costumes and stuff. It's
Yep.
crazy.
It's weird, and like I'm sitting there watching The Mandalorian with my girlfriend. I'm like, "Oh, those are Rogue One TK." She's like, What are you talking about?" I'm like, "You can tell by the shoulder straps. You can tell by the cover strips on the arms and legs." She's like, "How? Like, why do you know that?" I'm like, kind of have to know that.
Like I'm happy you were with me before I before all
Yes,
this.
that's the great thing is that we've been together prior to this because I don't know how to explain this to any. If I ever got to another relationship, I don't know how to
Oh,
explain
yeah.
this.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
wait. Yeah, my fiance, we've been together 12 years. So
Oh,
she's
so
been
this
with
was
me.
pre five
Yeah,
first.
yeah. So she's been with me the 501st journey. And it's funny, I tell her, like, you're lucky, like you get to do things like she's been to celebration, she's gone to all the
Yeah.
501st parties, she gets to hang out at troops and be in elevators with Darth Vader and Chewbacca, and she knows all that, and she could care less.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah. My girlfriend was a spotter one time. She came as like a spotter for the hospital event, and like kids loved it. My girlfriend was like, "All right, I'll take the picture for you." We're like, "Whatever." Maybe this is just me, but do you ever still get the feeling like I know like how people get dressed? Like I've seen Darth Vader put his stuff on, but like I still kind of like walk by them and I'm like, "Whoa." Like I still have that like whoa feeling. Like especially when we had Chewbacca at the Knicks game, I was like, "Holy crap, like that's Chewbacca." Like it's a weird
Oh
feeling for me.
yeah, yeah, dude. It always, especially because I've probably, especially because doing the XO thing for so long
Yeah.
and doing like Comic Cons and stuff. I've done a lot of things where I'm not in costume, but I've helped
Yeah.
all these people put on their costumes. That'll never get old to me. You always get that feeling like, oh wow, like I'm in the
Yeah.
501st. Like I'm just get to see all these people put on their costumes and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's like like they put on that helmet. It's like, oh my god, I'm standing next to Darth Vader. Like I helped you get dressed, but it still didn't kind of like ruin the magic for me. Like I
No,
know
I
it's all
think
put together, but yeah,
I think the most for me is Ruby as Chewbacca. That always I never once he puts that helmet on, he's Chewbacca to me.
yeah, it's mind blowing. Like you have to look up at him. He's on stilts. Like he's huge.
He
Like
also
the
plays the
fur.
character very well when he has the helmet
Yes, yes, that was awesome. Like that. Even though I know how everything is made, the magic is still kind of there for me,
on.
which I
Yeah.
think is really cool. I don't think it'll ever go away. Like I don't think that'll ever get old.
The only time the well, that doesn't get ruined, I guess, is when I'm like when I was doing Comic Cons and stuff like that, and
Mhm.
Darth Vader and everyone's coming up to me asking me where they need to go and stuff, and that
Yeah, that makes sense. Like you kind of have to organize everybody and keep everybody in line. Yeah, that could be kind of tough. I could see that.
Have you done a New York Comic Con?
I did. So the year that I had built my Inferno, October is usually New York Comic Con. I had gotten approved. The next November. So like you guys had that like offsite area where
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah. That was your way of the offsite location, uh huh.
yeah. So I had walked by there in my Inferno squad, and somebody asked me if I was with you guys. I was like, oh no, like not. They're like, really? I was like, nope. They're like, I was like, I applied, but I'm not in it yet. They're like, oh okay. But that I go to Comic Con every year. I've been going to Comic Con since I was in high school. I
Same,
go
yeah.
every year. As a teacher, I get like a pro pass, I guess. So I get like the
Yeah.
4-day pass for like
Yeah.
$70. It's great. But yeah, I've done Comic Cons, but not as a 501st member yet. And last year, the year whenever it was before everything happened, I went, but the 501st wasn't there. Like we weren't there as a Garrison.
Yeah, that was the first time that yeah, they kind of like
Yeah.
it's weird with that situation.
Yeah, I figured as much. Yeah.
But it gets bigger, and space is getting taken up for other things, and it is very nice that they give us a free space. But I get why sometimes. they don't have the space for us.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But man, yeah, man, I hope you get to do it. I hope we hopefully we get Comic-Con. They already canceled San Diego Comic-Con.
All that, yeah. They said they're gonna try to do something in November, like an in-person thing in November. So maybe by the time New York Comic Con rolls around, like,
I hope so. I hope so. I'm dying to go to a convention.
And in all fairness, we're wearing masks, so like
right, exactly.
we're good to go. I can put a filter in my Mando, like why not?
Exactly. Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again for doing this.
No problem. This was cool.
We appreciate it. And yeah, you'll be the first episode of season 2 of Under the Helmet.
Very cool. Sounds good.
Which would be cool, man. So thank you again for doing everything. Thank you everybody for watching, and yeah, peace out. Hold on.